Yes, we're rolling. I'm gonna make a video, like I said I would, to clear some things out. I want to talk about the last 6 months of my life, because they have been exceptionally turbulent and educational as well. Um, so, yeah, time to get things out. A bit of information on forehand. I suffered from a burnout about 2.5 years ago, due to nasty arguments with my boss at that time, wherein he issued several threats, and well, that's what he did. All in all, it resulted in me diving even harder into my work, trying to make amends as well, because was quite a conflicted person, and well, yeah, that amounted in me breaking down into panic attacks and losing sleep and crying and, well, all the things you get when you're incredibly stressed out. So after a short period of rest, I started reintegrating, working like half a day or being present half a day, and learning to trust in my coworkers, learning to talk about things I found hard, be vulnerable, well, all that hippie crap, basically. I underwent treatment as well, did trauma treatment, well, the whole shebang. All that resulted in a bit over a year that I was getting better and better, and this April, sort of the end of that period, I felt like I was back on track, sort of, and I spoke out again. One of the things I was known for is that I speak my mind, tell it like it is, I'm truthful, I do not back down from discussions. I refuse to shut up because somebody thinks that what I say isn't nice. So, yeah, I did that again. I occupied several leadership positions within the organization, and a part of my position was not only addressing my coworkers, but also having discussions with my employer. Well, you'd say that was my job, but obviously I was just meant to take and swallow whatever bullshit he threw at me and make it work so he could blame me for that again. That's how it basically went. That's what caused, amongst other things, the burnout. So this April, I spoke out again about, I was like, well, screw it. All those discussions and fights and threats are like over a year ago. Nothing has happened. I guess it's blown over or something. So I spoke out again, sent an email addressing him, addressing co-workers about complaints I've been hearing on almost a daily basis from almost every co-worker I worked with about mismanagement in the organization. Basically, him not taking responsibility for his actions, not following up on things that he said he would do, not supporting the co-workers, but blaming them for everything that doesn't work out in like it should in his mind. The typical narcissistic asshole boss, basically. So I addressed him on that. I didn't call him an asshole, but, well, I did address the mismanagement and him not being true to his word. well, obviously that didn't go well with him. Unfortunately, as well as before, co-workers didn't speak up, didn't respond, didn't do anything really. One even told me she didn't know what I was talking about, even though she was one that was fervent in complaints about him. So, yay, go co-workers. So that happened. Then he replied individually, basically ridiculing me, telling I was making shit up, well, stuff like that. So I replied to him and everybody, saying, well, I'm not making shit up. And that would have been a perfect time for co-workers to speak up. Like, yeah, we have been complaining for the past 6 months. We have, what you're saying is true, which it was. None of that. So there was after, well, considering I just went through my whole recovery process wherein I had learned to trust in my co-workers and speak up and all that, that happened. So that was a rather strong emotional blow, which kind of pissed me off and made me, well, it hurt like hell. I felt betrayed, obviously. In addition to that, I developed some corona-like symptoms. So to be sure, I was like, okay, I need to take a step back for a little while, see how this all pans out. Think about what my email, think about shit, and make sure I do not spread corona, because I used to work in a mental health hospital, and well, yeah, so that's a lot of personal contact, direct contact, so to avoid contagion. 2 days later, though, well, I reported in sick on a Tuesday. 2 days later, or 3 days, I think 3 days, I got a letter with my immediate resignation stated in the letter. Now we got a few things in Holland, in the Netherlands. One, the postal service can, if you pay for it, date the day they delivered the letter. So that's a legal proof of deliverance. And even though the postal office did that, obviously, the letter itself was dated. So not the post office stamp, but the letter itself was dated 2 days before I reported in sick, or 1 day before I reported in sick. I don't know. So that was, a deceitful, nifty, disgusting little trick, basically, which he did because it's illegal to fire somebody that has reported in sick in the Netherlands. You can't do that without approval by court. So yeah, he tried to screw me over there, probably because he was, well, butthurt about me sending an email. So that happened. Well, I fought that, of course. I found a lawyer, van der Kruis Advocaten, it's local here, to fight this. Now, yeah, for the full story, the organization I worked for is a mental health hospital where teenagers and young adults with severe mental problems are treated. They got traumas, personality disorder, addictions, you name it, they had it. And just to be clear, we're talking about people with a combination of physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, culminating in all kinds of behavioral and emotional problems. So they're really vulnerable. That's important for later in the story. And it's called Kompas GGZ. My former boss is called Koos Vullings. Just for the entire story of it. So yeah, I got a lawyer. he said, yeah, well, you got a good case regarding what has happened. So we went to court. We won. I won. Court ruled in my favor that the resignation wasn't lawful. So, well, yay. After all that had happened, of course, the relations between me and my director were, well, messed up after that. So the judge did find reason to terminate the contract, to end my employment. My 5-year employment, by the way, 5 years. And it would end at the end of August. So by September 1st, I would be unemployed again. I was like, okay, cool. I'll find something else to do. And the court also issued the verdict that over the period April, May, June, July, August, I was legally owed my regular pay and, well, build up other finances we got here. It's not that relevant. All in all, culminating in an amount of just a bit over 13,000 euros. So it was like, okay, cool. Gives me some time to unwind after the stressful period, invest in myself, maybe get an education again, find something else to do. So yeah, I thought, well, sunny days are coming. But, well, nothing turned out to be sunny at all. Because even though July the 20th, the verdict was made public, nothing happened. My former employer, Koos Vullings, told his lawyer to tell my lawyer that he would get things in order. So, yay, I thought, cool. Didn't happen. So then the lawyer got to work, and then you got all these legal steps they have to take before something actually happens again. All in all, no money was coming, so then we contacted a bailiff. And for the who doesn't know what a bailiff is somebody who contacts you directly to tell you to pay up. They deliver a letter, preferably in person, if not at the address, which is registered and everything. And then you got 2 days to pay up. And if that doesn't happen, they can take possession of your bank account so that they can make the proper payments. So it's like, okay, cool. It sucks that it's necessary, but whatever. As long as I get my money, which I was owed legally. Unfortunately, that process took, well, incredibly long. My lawyer told me 3 times that he contacted the bailiff. And that it was in a period over a month. So, and by the 3rd time, that's like over a month later, he had an actual letter from the bailiff organization, van gerechtsdeurwaarders, that's what they're called, that they had delivered the letter. So like, okay, that's the 3rd time you're telling me this. What has happened the previous 2 times? Why did you tell me you did it if you didn't do it? And why do you send a bill for work done when there's no work done? But that's of course a discussion that was bloody pointless. And basically all he did was tell me that I should negotiate more and play nice and follow by the rules and whatever. And I like following the rules. I love rules, the proper rules. They are what they are. But if somebody is blatantly ignoring the rules, I'm not one that's going to be polite. Well, so apparently that didn't work in my advantage. But hey. So yeah, then that was September. So then my boss didn't pay up. So then they can take possession of the bank account. So that takes another 4 weeks before things are arranged. And that happened. So by the 6th of November, I got word that the bank account was seized and things would very quickly be in order. So far, I haven't got anything. Also, during that time, that was in October, I learned that my former boss told his lawyer that he had sent me a letter by mail, which I didn't have. I never received it, wherein he did a counter proposal in which instead of him paying me over 13,000 euros, I was to pay him several thousands of euros because of costs he had to make for things I did or did not do that were, it was fraud, clear and plain fraud. He tried to rip me off, screw me over, because, I don't know. He thinks he's above the law. Like a lot of asshole narcissistic bosses do. And then my lawyer wanted to talk about that and sent emails back and forth about that. And I was like, I don't care. I don't care what he has to say. I don't care what he wants me to do. I don't care. So then we got radio silence. Also, in these months, because of the stress, I was obviously angry and pissed off about a lot of things, but mainly about how shit didn't, work out. I got in trouble with the law. I had a little bump in with the local police, wherein I got mace treatment, not recommendable. And they worked me to the floor, and then they put me in a cell where I spent several hours. They wanted to hear me, of course, and I told my story, which was dumb. My story, it was my fault. And after that, they did agree that it wasn't the smartest thing to do, but all things considered, there wasn't really. They let me go that same evening, so that was cool. However, when I got out of detainment and I was walking through the front office again, 3 of my co-workers, who I hadn't spoken in 3 or 4 months, were sitting there. 3 of them, and I hadn't spoken to them in 3 or 4 months. The police did not know about my work. But somehow, the only explanation is that the police contacted them. Well, there are 2 explanations, but either the police contacted my co-workers, and then I wonder how in hell's name the police knew where I worked, or my co-workers were spying on me and knew what had happened. I had access to information from the police, so they could pick me up. Either way, my co-workers and probably my boss and the local police department were in touch about me. Obviously. So that's a fucked up thing. Now, I think I have an explanation. I don't know if it's the full truth or what I don't know the specifics. But my boss, Koos Vullings, is a former employer for the Ministerial Justice Department. He was the director of a prison, the manager, the warden, I don't know what, well, he was the boss of a prison around 1998. I did some research and found out that at that point he was investigated for fraud and for forging false documents and for taking bribes. Rumor has it some other horrible stuff was going on, but I couldn't find anything about it. So over 20 years ago, he was already investigated and relieved from his duty after a big conflict within the Department of Justice for fraud and forging false documents. Exactly as he has done around my the ending of my deployment. Exactly like that. So nothing has changed, obviously. But he always bragged about having contacts within the Justice Department. And about a year, 2 years ago, the entire justice system in the Netherlands had been investigated, and it showed that almost half or over half of the people there were corrupt, were doing shady stuff they shouldn't be doing, were abusing their power, were, well, corrupt. So connecting those dots, obviously, my former boss has contacts within the police department here where he gets information and communicates. Somehow he knows things that go on. That's the only possible explanation for my co-workers being there when I got out of detainment. Unless they got cameras in the park around where I was picked up by the police, which of course is bullshit. So that happened as well. Okay, a bit fast forward. Last week, 2 weeks ago, time's a bit foggy, or was a bit foggy. I was taking a walk through a nice moonlit sky. It was clear sky and the moon was almost full. It was lovely, and I do that when I'm stressed out to relieve some stress. It really suits the soul. Unfortunately, the police was looking for somebody with a description that matched what I was wearing. So they picked me up again for walking through the park at night and looking like somebody they were looking for. So that's one thing, but it sucked because it was night, so I had to spend the night there, and then they said they had legal grounds for keeping me possibly over 3 days for investigation purposes. So yeah, next morning they did a hearing. They wanted to know my story. Well, obviously I didn't do it, and obviously there wasn't any proof, and so that was the story. But then they told me the investigation was still running and they wanted to keep me longer than that day. So yeah, that sucked. But for some reason, and it was made official, I had I don't know what's the proper English word for it, but the officer came and told me that they were going to keep me longer than that day because they still had an investigation. They wanted to hear witnesses, they wanted to hear stories, they wanted to hear what other people had to say in order to disprove what I said. So I don't know how that makes any sense in what kind of world, but yeah. Fortunately, I was let go later that night. I didn't ask why, I didn't want to jinx it. So, yay. I only had to spend one night at the police station. and this time no co-workers. So that was last week, I think. Yeah. And now I'm sitting here talking about it. I'm literally flat broke. I'm selling stuff. I'm selling movies. I'm selling books. Because, well, I got to eat, But yeah, eventually, all my stuff's going to run out as well. The fucked up thing is, if I just had my money, like the court or decree that I should have, none of this would have happened. I would have been busy with, well, fun things again. Well, I am doing that now, but that's another video. I wouldn't have any worries. Because as fate has it, I am due this Monday in court again for not having paid any rent for the last 6 months. Because back in April, when I got my resignation, obviously I didn't trust it, and I do know his character, or lack of character, better to say. So I tried to make an arrangement with the owner of this apartment, explaining my situation, and they said, well, yeah, we can make such an arrangement, and then you paid it, and this. But I didn't think that was real. That wasn't reasonable. And looking back, I was bloody right, because if I would have agreed to those terms, then I would have been broke like 2 or 3 months ago, with all resulting consequences. So I was right, obviously. So that's this Monday. Oh yeah, sidestep. Not only do the police and my former co-workers are in touch with each other, which means that my co-workers know my situation and do nothing, which means that the police, I also told them about my situation, and even though they know my situation and they know I'm being ripped off, are in touch with my co-workers. Or, well, that's not necessarily the truth, but I don't know. I think it's a really big coincidence that on the same evening that I got arrested, my boss infiltrated the local police department to coincidentally see that I was arrested. Hello. That's not a coincidence. So either way, there is a mole in the local police department, and my name is known with him, and he updated my boss. Or they are in touch with each other over me. That's either way, there's an element, small or big, of corruption in our local police department, obviously. To add to that, last week I was sitting by my window. I got this nice big shelf where I can sit upon in the window and smoke a cigarette when the weather's nice. I was sitting there, and who comes driving by in his big midlife crisis, ridiculous, cheap, bad maintained Ford? My boss, former boss. He drove by, he stopped, and he took a picture of me with a phone or a camera, I don't know, fuck that, of me sitting in the window. Which means he's keeping tabs on me. And I know that car, it has a very distinct sound. Not a lot of people, especially in our neighborhood, have a big, he would want it to be a pickup truck, but it's not. But it's a very throaty engine. And I've heard that engine over the last few weeks, months, driving through the street. So I got that in combination with the police department and my co-workers being in touch with each other, I got, well, every reason to assume I'm being watched, I'm being monitored. Now, in the meantime, I have exhausted every legal option I have. I made complaints with the office with the attorney office, which were not responded upon. I have contacted the bailiff. And for those who don't know what a bailiff is, I don't know if I already explained it, but he's the one that actually comes to your house to take the bloody money or take possession of your bank account if you don't pay up. That's what a bailiff does. I spoke to the bailiff, and even though the order they have is on my name and they're executing it in my name, they are not allowed to talk to me about it because they have a contract with the attorney office. So that's not a bullshit legality that makes no sense but restricts every option I have as a lawful abiding citizen to actually do something. We got a deacon of the Order of Attorneys, and the deacon is somebody that supervises things that happen. If you notify them, they check and see if everything is going by the rules. That's a process that's still running, which of course takes weeks, or maybe months. I don't know, but that's still running. But he doesn't actually do anything. He just goes there and does an investigation and then say, well, this is not how it's supposed to be. But that's it. He can't force the attorney to actually do his job properly. I made a report with the local police department, because where else can I go, about me being ripped off by my boss, about him committing fraud, about him doing what he does. So that, because I want him investigated, obviously, because what's going on is just ridiculous. I sent an email to the Justice Department, the National Justice Department, the Ministerial Justice Department, concerning the story, and they sent an email saying that I should make a report with the police. That they couldn't do anything about the money. They said, go away, go somewhere else, and good luck. Well, not even good luck, just go away and go somewhere else. Even though my boss is a former employer with them. I told them about it. I told them who he was and that he was investigated by them about over 20 years ago and that he's doing the same shenanigans again. And they told me whatever. So that's the Justice Department of the Netherlands for you. Now, all in all, I'm sued by with the party. The former owner of my apartment is Patricia Woonmodule. That's what they're called. Patricia Woonmodule 1 for some reason. And the ownership of my apartment has changed hands. In April it was Patricia Woonmodule 1, and from starting May it's Heimstede, Nederland. But Patricia Woonmodule is suing me for rent up until September, which she has no legal right to. But she's suing me for that. And the bailiff organization handling that case, Vlaanderen, I told them the situation. I handed them the letter that actually stated that possession of this apartment was no longer hers over that period. They ignored it, and they just pushed on. So now, coincidentally, they did admit that the subpoena was on the wrong name, which they did after I informed them and the court office here that it was fraud. Plain and simple fraud. They're relying on official papers. They supplied falsified data. They made claims to money they didn't have, which is fraud. Clear and simple. But now that's changed somehow. So we'll see how that goes. So yeah. Now I'm in a situation where I have, no money. Still no money. I am owed over 13,000 euros, where the National Ministerial Department of Justice knows about it, where the local police force knows about it, where the judge knows about it, because the judge that treated the case where I got unlawfully fired is also the judge that's treating my not paid rent case. And she invited me in an earlier stage to explain my story, which I did, and told her that, I have no money because the verdict you issued is not being followed. So make of that what you want. And then she told me, I understand you as a human being, but I can't do anything. So now the judges know. That's one. The attorneys know. That's two. The bailiffs know. That's three. The National Justice Department knows. That's four. The local police force knows. That's five. And nothing happens. Which means that the entire justice system, all branches, which of the Netherlands, isn't doing anything about a narcissistic asshole boss that is deliberately ruining my life. Because no money, you got nothing. The subpoena where I'm doing court for stated they want the not paid rent, of course, but they also wanted to evict me out of my apartment for not paying rent, even though they know what my situation is. I told them. They're like, we don't care, you don't pay, we don't care that you can't really do anything about it, but screw you, we're gonna evict you. That's what they want. So that means, worst case scenario, that end of this year, December 31, I'll be homeless. I'll be out on the streets. That's basically with my luck for these past few months. That's it. I'll be homeless. And the entire justice system in the Netherlands knows my situation. And is not doing anything. It's choosing not to do anything about it. And I know that my former employer and my co-workers are in touch with organizations around me. I have, because of threats he issued earlier that are actually happening now, I know that he is infecting my social environment. I know he's infecting institutions around me. Because things he threatened me with are happening now. So yeah. And it's fucked up because, I'm 36. I think. And I've been working since I was 13. When I was 14, I worked 3-4 days a week. And I've done so consistently. And now this. This is what Netherlands apparently is. And I feel it's justified for me putting it like this, as actually, because in the Netherlands the people in Netherlands culture is all about, well, they're fucking arrogant. Netherlands thinks we're like the bee's knees, so to say, that we got it all figured out and we got it all properly arranged and whatnot. While it's probably a bigger mess than a lot of other places. And as far as I know, I have traveled a bit. I have delved into different cultures globally. In other places, it's not necessarily better, but people know it and are honest about it. And they're like, well, that's just the way it is. What you're going to do? You can't fight a country, so screw it. But here in Netherlands, it's like, no, we got it right. We got it worked out. You got to be nice. You got to play by the rules. You got to conform. We're big on conformity here. I'm terrible at conformity. And then they tell you, oh, well, you just get over it and go do something else, and that's it, no matter what has happened. That's how they do it here. So yeah. And what's the worst of all, well, I know it's the worst of all, but another fucked up thing is that the organization I work treats very, very vulnerable, fragile teenagers and young adults. And my boss, former boss, good God, is actually active as a therapist. Is actually active as somebody who determines if somebody is mentally healthy or not. Seriously, only in the Netherlands this bullshit is possible. So yeah. Now I'm sitting here and people are telling me consistently that I should hope for the best. That it will be alright. That's what everybody's telling me. I have absolutely no fucking reason to believe that. Reality is showing me very different things. So I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not a particularly violent man. I am a martial arts enthusiast, but so I don't know. I guess it's up to fate. One would say that if one does what is right, is true to oneself, speaks the truth, stands up for things, doesn't back down, sacrifices, is willing to risk it all, and actually risks it all in the sake of what's right. That would, well, there should be something, right? Something besides a big fuck you from the universe. Yeah. Because as it looked like now, at this moment, I have no reason at all to expect anything then I'm getting screwed over. That I'm getting screwed over for being true to who I am, to my life, what I've done, what I stand for, what I believe in. And that's the thing that hurts most. and this is going to be another video. So I'm going to leave it at this. Monday, 16 November, I'm due in court. I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to make it home that day. Because of all the bullshit of what's going on. But we'll see. Huh? Spending time in prison has hurt a lot of people, but that's what fate wants. It's what fate wants, isn't it? Good night.